Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. Today we answer the question of what happens when two loyalist Space Marine chapters fight amongst each other. We're going to take a look at the suppression of the Macarius heresy, filled with tons of Space Marine versus Space Marine actions. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day, and if you have any suggestions, just comment down below. If you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's $1 a month. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the suppression of the Macarian heresy. The suppression of the Macarian heresy was a notable Imperial military campaign conducted by the notoriously savage Minotaur Space Marine chapter, following the death of Lord Commander Solar Macarius. After the death of Macarius, those great domains he had conquered for the Imperium of Man during the Macarian Crusade fell into open civil war and anarchy between his 7 former Imperial Guard Army Group generals throughout the newly conquered territory. These contested territories splintered into petty star empires, each lorded over by one of Macarius's old generals who had repudiated their oaths of loyalty to the Imperium, opposing each other as well as the authority of the Adeptus Terra, and with Space Marine chapters now dragging sword upon each other in dispute and anger, the High Lords of Terra were forced to act decisively. This they did by calling in several waves of fresh Space Marine chapters to bring the civil conflict to an end by exterminating heretical forces and bringing order to the region under the command of the Imperial War Master, Solon. Ultimately, the forces of over 100 separate chapters were deployed at some point during the campaign. One such chapter, operating under the High Lord's right, were the Minotaurs, then a chapter all but unseen for millennia. They were a chapter both familiar through their fell reputation and profoundly changed. A fleet-based chapter operating fully equipped and at peak strength, the Minotaurs fought as a single, cohesive force that struck like a series of brutal axe blows at sources of schisms and disorders, quickly earning themselves a bloody reputation by carrying out the orders of the High Lords without question or falter. During the suppression, it was the Minotaurs who formed the spearhead of the battle group which shattered the petty empire of the outlaw Colonel Lyris of the 11th Kadu Armored Corps, their chapter's land raiders blasting apart the famed tanks of the elite Cadusian Immortals on the ice planet of Gyros Prime. They also carried out exterminatus orders on the hive world of Duval and the sword realms of the Hope Cluster, while on the ocean world of Nereus they hunted down and obliterated the Xenos-possessed remnants of the Imperial Paladins Chapter's 4th Company in a maze of subsurface cavern cities, poisoning the seas of the once vital agri-world. The action from which the Minotaurs gained the most infamy during the Macarian heresy would be known as the Euxine Incident, which resulted in the near destruction of 2 Imperial Space Marine chapters who had become locked in conflict. These chapters were the Doom Warriors and the Inceptors. Formerly allies in the Macarian Crusade, they had come to blows over a matter of honor and were embroiled in a long-running and highly protracted conflict fought under determined rules of engagements in the Euxine system, with the 2 combatant chapters refusing calls to end this battle and aid to the pacification. The Minotaurs were dispatched to sunder the 2 apart and end the strife. Caring nothing for the cause or rights of the 2 chapters, the Minotaurs attacked in full force with their initial strike. Overmatched and broken, the Doom Warriors fled the system almost immediately in a barely organized retreat. However, with most of their warships either destroyed or captured in orbit, the Inceptors found themselves trapped in the Euxine system. Relentlessly and systematically, the honored second founding chapter were encircled and slowly destroyed piece by piece, until the last remaining Inceptor Space Marines were forced into a humiliating surrender, as fewer than 100 battle brothers had survived. To add further insult to this defeat, the Minotaurs stripped the fallen of many relics of their own armories, and took the ravaged chapter's flagship, a great Crusade-era assault transport that had served the Inceptors since their founding. That such an ancient and revered chapter and close scion of the Ultramarines could be almost annihilated in this fashion, and with the agreement of the High Lords, sent shockwaves throughout many of the Space Marine chapters who have heard it. The Minotaurs were denounced across Ultramar for their atrocities, and forbidden to enter its bounds. Other of Guilliman's line have since sworn vengeance on the chapter, should the opportunity arise, and honor permit they carry it out. The Minotaurs were not the only chapter to fight other Space Marine chapters. After the death of Lord Commander Solar Macarius, The Star Phantoms became swiftly embroiled in the Makarian heresy, as they clashed directly with those Imperial Guard forces who, in their chapter's view, had betrayed the Imperium. The Star Phantoms were listed in certain suppressed sources as being directly responsible for the annihilation of the 17th Terex Guard on Thawd, and are known to have engaged in a bloody and protracted conflict with their former allies, the Marines Malevolence. The Star Phantoms chapter became subject of inquisitorial investigation as a result of almost destroying the entire Marines Malevolent chapter, and were ultimately cleansed of heresy, but received censure from the Ordo Hereticus. Even the first founding chapters, legendary and revered as they were, fought amongst each other. The Dark Angels were one of the Space Marine chapters tasked with the suppression of the Civil War. The Ravenwing uncovered several corrupt Chaos cults during the campaign, largely instigated by the Alpha Legion, and the unmistakable signs of the fallen angel Cypher's presence. But during the uprising, only a run-in with the Space Wolves, the Dark Angel's ancient rivals, allow several of the fallen to escape the Dark Angel's grasp. All in all, the suppression of the Macarius heresy would take several standard years before order was restored, under the command of War Master Solon, to the affected regions of the Segmentum Pacificus. And those were 40 facts on the suppression of the Macarian heresy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can create these videos. Link in the description if you want to support. It's $1 a month. As you can tell from the suppression of the Macarian heresy, loyalist Space Marine chapters versus loyalist Space Marine chapters is the same as a Space Marine chapter versus any other faction. The only difference is that Space Marines would allow the enemy to give up, because that's essentially what would happen. They would be close to destruction, and it wasn't until one side gave up that fighting would stop. It's cool to think about, but yeah, Space Marine on Space Marine conflict does occur in 40K. If you guys have any other questions, comment down below, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwin with OneMindSyndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.